Have you ever wondered where the absolute limits of human survival truly lie? On today's world map, even when almost every corner seems connected, there are still places where isolation reaches an extreme level. They hide beneath polar temperatures far below freezing, cling to sheer cliffs, or remain trapped deep within harsh deserts beyond the reach of modern roads. Many people would doubt their existence and assume these extraordinary settlements belong only in fantasy films rather than the 21st century. Today, join us as we cross every geographical boundary to explore the most isolated places on Earth, where this incredible journey officially begins. Teribirka, Russia. At the frozen edge of the Arctic Circle, Teribirka looks like a post-apocalyptic land where rotting wooden shipwrecks lie abandoned on the tidal shore beneath glowing northern lights. Once a busy fishing center, this place is now filled with empty wooden houses, covered in rust and slowly destroyed by time and sea salt after the fishing fleets disappeared. During the polar night that lasts more than 40 days, temperatures can fall to minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, covering the whole settlement in darkness, ice, and freezing wind. Around it stretches an empty tundra of permanent frozen ground and sharp cliffs, where Arctic winds sweep freely across the land without any barrier. Traveling here is a risky gamble because the weather can change from calm skies to blinding snowstorms in only 15 minutes, leaving visitors isolated in the middle of wild nature. Nepal Van Java, Indonesia. On a volcanic slope so steep, it seems impossible to live there. Thousands of people still build houses stacked above one another like stairways hanging in the clouds. The settlement sits at about 5,315 feet above sea level, on fertile but loose volcanic ash soil, so long rain can turn the mountainside into a dangerous landslide zone. The 30 to 45 degree slope makes the roof of one house become the terrace of the house above, while securing each foundation protects not only one family, but the whole row below. Fog can swallow the village in less than 5 minutes, and clouds drift past the windows, making red, yellow, and blue metal roofs appear and disappear on the volcanic slope, With almost no flat land, residents still grow vegetables on ledges less than 3 feet wide, turning each tiny terrace field into a condition for survival among fog, volcanic ash, and dangerous steepness. Skardu Valley Villages, Pakistan. Among peaks covered in permanent ice, a strange white desert winds across the land at an elevation of 8,202 feet, creating the illusion that snow and sand exist in the same world. This region is also seen as a gateway to deadly mountains, where explorers make their final stop before heading toward giant peaks rising above 26,247 feet. To survive in this harsh environment, local people build homes from stone mixed with wooden beams, a flexible design that helps the structures endure ground shaking. When snowstorms block the mountain roads for 5 months, the villages become almost cut off from the outside world, facing temperatures that change from 86 degrees Fahrenheit in summer to -4 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. This makes the landscape both magnificent and fragile, with bright apricot orchards clinging beneath barren cliffs, while desert dust rises from the valley and leaves brown-gray marks across the white snow. San Gimignano, Italy. Once known as the Manhattan of the Middle Ages, this town still proudly keeps its unique skyline of soaring stone towers, born from a fierce struggle for power among wealthy families. At the height of its prosperity, greed and rivalry drove them to build around 72 towers, with some reaching 164 feet to display their status, yet only 14 remain standing today. Few people know that the source of this extraordinary luxury was a delicate flower called saffron, a rare spice sought across Europe that brought enormous wealth to the town. Yet that glorious age collapsed tragically in 1348 when the plague swept through the town, killed about 2/3 of its population, and pushed this once busy center into a long decline. The poverty and neglect that followed the epidemic unexpectedly helped keep its medieval appearance largely unchanged, allowing the entire town to be recognized as a World Heritage Site in 1990. Flåm, Norway. At the inner end of a fjord system reaching 127 miles inland, this village is surrounded by rock walls rising more than 3,281 feet, leaving it with almost no direct sunlight for months in winter. To connect this isolated settlement with the outside world, people spent 17 years building a railway that climbs 2,841 feet, with 18 of its 20 tunnels carved through the mountains by human labor. Because the slope is so extreme, every train must carry 5 independent braking systems to avoid plunging into the ravine below, where waterfalls 328 feet high roar through the valley. Although only about 350 residents live here, and some stretches of water are only around 820 feet wide, Flåm still receives huge numbers of visitors each year, placing pressure on its small living space. Because ship pollution is difficult to clear from fjords enclosed by mountains, Norway began applying direct zero-emission requirements from 2026 to certain passenger vessels entering the protected area. Inari, Finland. In a land so sparsely populated that humans almost disappear from the map, nature is what truly decides how people survive inside the Arctic Circle. The population density is only about 1 person per square mile, while winter temperatures can fall from -40 to -58 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to turn boiling water into ice crystals in mid-air. This area has a water system covering more than 386 square miles with thousands of islands, but winter turns the surface into ice up to 3 feet thick, strong enough to support heavy machines. Indigenous people have survived here for thousands of years, not by conquering nature, but by living with the migration and breeding cycles of reindeer and dividing the year into 8 smaller seasons. During 50 days of polar night, snow glows with a cold blue light like an alien planet, while for more than 200 nights each year, the northern lights stretch across the sky like a sign of life over the frozen land. Tulayatynsky district, Russia. On the steep slopes of the Caucasus Mountains, the stone villages of Tulayatynsky cling tightly to the cliffs, so closely built that the roof of one house can become the walkway for the home above it. Deep in the remote mountains of Dagestan, this region rises from about 4,921 feet to nearly 13,123 feet, where thin air and harsh winters shape human life. In deep valleys surrounded by high mountains, sunlight appears for only about 6 hours each day, forcing local people to live according to the natural rhythm of light and darkness. To withstand the dangerous terrain and winds reaching 62 miles per hour, they build thick stone houses close together while preserving their mountain customs across generations. This harshness becomes even clearer on narrow dirt roads running beside ravines hundreds of feet deep, where every journey demands absolute caution. Saksun, Faroe Islands. Trapped between steep cliffs rising more than 1,640 feet, Saksun appears like a fairy tale village forgotten by the world, where green turf roofs blend into the slopes and the fog of the North Atlantic. The silence here becomes absolute as the village maintains fewer than 10 residents, placing its population density among the lowest on the planet. To survive in this remote wilderness, people use traditional turf roofs grown over birch bark. When soaked with rain, each square foot of roof can weigh more than 41 pounds, helping hold the houses down against violent storms. Nature once changed the entire shape of this place when a great storm in the 17th century swept huge amounts of sand across the bay entrance, turning a once busy harbor into a mysterious, isolated, circular lagoon. Today, that lagoon moves like a magical illusion of the tide. When the water falls, it opens a smooth white sand avenue leading straight to the ocean. And when the tide rises, it becomes a giant mirror reflecting the gray sky. Longyearbyen, Norway. At the edge of the Arctic Ocean stands a town where people are forbidden to die, because the frozen ground can slowly push buried coffins back to the surface after years trapped in ice. During the 84 days of polar night, the sun disappears completely, forcing people to live, study, work, and travel through darkness, surrounded by snow, freezing wind, and glowing northern lights overhead. Houses here cannot be built directly on the ground, So every structure stands on deep support poles to stop indoor heat from melting the frozen earth and causing entire buildings to sink sideways. Once outside the town, people must stay alert for polar bears, because this settlement sits in a brutal wilderness where humans are not truly at the top of the survival chain. Hidden deep beneath the frozen mountain is a seed vault, protecting more than 1 million crop samples, turning this isolated Arctic town into one of humanity's final shelters if global disaster ever destroys life on Earth. Tongil Village, China. On a mountainside sloping up to 60 degrees, this dark grey wooden village clings to the rock as if life here is a constant fight against gravity. Sitting more than 6,562 feet above sea level, the thin air can make lowland visitors feel headaches and chest tightness, while afternoon mountain shadows can swallow the village and drop temperatures quickly. Nearly 150 houses are joined with traditional wooden joints without iron nails, giving the structures enough flexibility to face earthquakes and mountain winds. With little flat land, the roof of a lower house becomes the drying yard of the home above, while kitchen smoke coats wooden beams like a natural layer against insects and damp rot. When fog covers the mountain base, the whole village looks as if it is floating above the clouds, while dark, narrow paths and songs echoing through the canyon make it feel like a world isolated from time. Grytviken, South Georgia. In the near Antarctic Sea, with almost no way back, Grytviken was once a small industrial settlement where people lived among icy winds, snowy mountains, and ocean water only 34 to 36 degrees Fahrenheit. To reach this place, ships had to cross the violent Southern Ocean, where winds could reach 99 miles per hour, and the weather could cut off all contact for days. For 60 years, residents survived around the whaling station, but isolation, cold, and a brutal industry made the town depend completely on supply ships. When whaling ended, people left behind iron workshops, oil tanks, shipwrecks, and whale bones, like traces of a community that once tried to survive at the edge of the world. Today, elephant seals weighing up to 8,818 pounds lie on the old concrete floors, making Grytviken feel like an empty village where nature has taken back everything humans abandoned. Cemoro Lawang, Indonesia. Clinging to the rim of a 6-mile-wide supervolcano at 7,218 feet, this haunting village endures 32 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, cold right in the middle of the tropics. The border of survival appears clearly where the landscape splits between lush green pine forest and a 12,973-acre sea of ash, where wind can raise black storms that erase visibility. Every day, the ground still trembles softly, with a deep roar like a jet engine, while sharp-smelling sulfur gas can drift in from a volcanic crater less than 2 miles away. To adapt to this harsh environment, residents build low-ceiled houses and wrap themselves in colorful cloth to fight the cold and block volcanic dust when they go outside. Facing the risk of sudden volcanic ashfall, they still remain here and keep an ancient ritual alive, carrying offerings down to the crater as a way to ask life to continue in this dangerous land. Undredal, Norway. At the bottom of a giant cut left by glaciers, this tiny village is pressed between deep water and cliffs over 3,281 feet high, as if nature has locked it in place. Close to shore, the fjord floor can drop more than 1,640 feet, where meltwater floats above salty seawater and creates a dark, cold blue like a sleeping abyss. Because high mountains block the sky, this place loses direct sunlight for 5 months, while snow on distant peaks still reflects weak light into the valley like a giant mirror. Until 1988, the village was almost cut off from the world because there was no road connection, while its 900-year-old wooden church still stands through ancient timber, joining without iron nails. Among red and yellow houses below the cliffs, more than 500 goats with bells climb the steep slopes, showing that life here does not separate from harsh nature, but survives by moving with the rhythm of mountains, water, and Nordic winter. Chinguetti, Mauritania. Like a red sandstone carving barely surviving in the ocean of the Sahara, this ruined maze is being swallowed by giant dunes advancing as much as 164 feet each year. Trapped in the frightening isolation of thousands of miles of empty desert, this place is a brutal furnace that heats everything to 122 degrees Fahrenheit by day, then drops close to freezing after nightfall. Once a vital gathering point for tens of thousands of camels on great journeys across the desert, the busy trading center of the past is now reduced to narrow alleys waiting to be erased by sand. Despite this dying land groaning beneath violent sandstorms, generations of local families still refuse to leave, guarding more than 6,000 ancient manuscripts from the 9th century as they slowly decay. Holding pages that recorded knowledge of the stars from a distant age, visitors begin to understand the powerful survival of human wisdom within the suffocating silence of the desert. Kunzak, Russia. In the middle of a quiet plateau, a giant crack suddenly opens beside the village, turning the border between daily life and a deep abyss into only a few steps. The village sits about 5,577 to 6,562 feet above sea level, beside a U-shaped canyon about 328 feet deep, where the cliffs drop almost straight down at 90 degrees. Water that flows calmly across the grass suddenly falls over the edge of the fault, dropping more than 230 feet into the gorge, and sometimes freezing in winter into a giant ice pillar hanging in the air. Many houses stand only a few feet from the canyon edge, and in some places, opening a window means seeing the dark, empty drop below, making caution a daily survival instinct for residents. When clouds are trapped at the bottom of the canyon, the whole abyss disappears under a white sea, making the village look as if it is floating in the sky with the roar of waterfalls echoing between the cliffs. Iquitos, Peru. Swallowed by tropical rainforest, this massive city is one of the rare places with more than 500,000 people, but no road access to the outside world. When rainy season water levels rise up to 49 feet, the river turns into a floating street system, forcing people to live with the violent rise and fall of the water. In 90-degree Fahrenheit heat and nearly saturated humidity, daily life happens among sweat, mud, insects, and small boats moving through the cloudy brown water. Instead of fighting the floods, thousands of houses are tied to hollow logs so they can rise with the water, turning neighborhoods into unstable mazes on the river. Isolated between forest and mud, this place still survives through ocean-going ships that travel 1,864 miles deep into the continent, bringing supplies so riverside communities can continue living. Villa Las Estrellas, Antarctica. In the coldest continent on Earth, a tiny civilian settlement still struggles to survive, while ice, violent wind, and near total isolation surround human life. Winter temperatures here can fall to negative 53 degrees Fahrenheit, while winds reaching 124 miles per hour are strong enough to knock people down and tear apart structures not firmly anchored to rock. Houses are painted red or yellow, raised above the ground, and secured with steel cables, because in this endless white landscape without trees, losing direction or body heat can quickly become a fight for survival. Kulusuk, Greenland. There are days when the sea around this village no longer looks like water, but like a locked gate, blocked by millions of tons of drifting ice from the Arctic Ocean. For up to 9 months each year, giant ice masses surround the island, while freezing winds can exceed 124 miles per hour, turning life here into a constant struggle against ice and storms. Because light bends between layers of cold and warm air, massive icebergs can sometimes appear to float in the sky, transforming the landscape into a chilling mirage. The brightly colored houses were not painted only for beauty, but also to help people recognize where to go during white blizzards, when the boundary between land, sky, and sea completely disappears. Inside this maze of glowing blue ice and booming cracks that sound like cannon fire, residents still collect 1,000-year-old ice blocks and melt them into fresh drinking water. Kinalug, Azerbaijan. At an altitude where trees can no longer survive, this stone village rises through the clouds like a fortress, forgotten by the modern world. Sitting about 7,700 feet above sea level, the air here is far thinner than the lowlands, while winters can last up to 9 months with temperatures falling to negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Because the slopes reach 40 to 50 degrees and space is extremely limited, one family's roof becomes the pathway and drying yard for the house above. With no trees for firewood, residents dry animal dung on stone walls for fuel, turning what seems useless into a vital source of survival during the frozen winter. When clouds fill the valley below, the grey stone village rises like an island above a white sea, where homes, pathways, and ancient graveyards have endured through centuries of isolation. Yurgalan, Kyrgyzstan. In a high mountain basin where the weather can change in 15 minutes, this valley was once a broken coal town before being pulled back from darkness. Sitting at about 7,382 feet, it receives so much snow that winter lasts more than 6 months, while dry snow containing only 5 to 7% water can bury a person up to the chest. The air holds about 25% less oxygen than at sea level, making the cold drain strength faster, while the fractured terrain is still slowly lifted by tectonic forces below. Beside rusting excavators swallowed by green grass and snow peaks glowing pink at sunset, this place is not only a beautiful valley, but proof that a small community can bring life back from industrial ruins. Chengxi Ancient Village, China. Rising like a giant hidden anthill across mountain slopes angled between 30 and 40 degrees, this cluster of 600 rammed earth houses clings together like a single massive structure. Its dark red earthen walls, measuring 24 to 31 inches thick, work as a natural climate system that keeps indoor temperatures between 59 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, despite the harsh plateau weather. The most unusual design feature is that the flat roofs below, built 8 to 12 inches thick, perfectly serve as terraces and pathways for the homes directly above them. To resist erosion, ancient builders hid hollow tree trunks inside the walls as drainage channels, while the stepped layout helped weaken the destructive force of wind and rain. During harvest season, this giant earthen maze transforms into a brilliant mosaic as yellow corn and bright red peppers cover hundreds of rooftops suspended across the mountainside. Chantilly, Georgia. In a remote high mountain valley, Chantilly appears like a sealed stone fortress where about 60 grey towers are joined together and almost blend into the surrounding cliffs. For centuries, each tower served as a home, a food store, and a guard post, helping local people defend the northern frontier of Georgia. To adapt to the dangerous terrain, stone houses were built tightly together, while their flat roofs formed walkways that allowed residents to move between towers without going down to the ground. The village became even more naturally protected by a fast-flowing river, steep mountain slopes, and snow-covered peaks that leave it almost cut off during winter. Even the journey to Chantilly is dangerous because the road stretches more than 62 miles across high mountain passes and deep ravines where one small mistake can lead to disaster. Arden, Lebanon. When the lowlands are buried in summer heat, Arden remains cool on the mountain slopes of Lebanon, like a green refuge above the harsh season below. Because of its gentle climate, this town has long been a famous summer retreat where elegant villas stand beside red-roofed stone houses and old churches of the Maronite Christian community. Surrounding that peaceful life are rare green forests, where conifer trees, oak woodland, and mountain birds create fresh air seldom found in the Middle East. The scenery of Aden continues to change with the seasons, from slopes bright with wildflowers in spring and lively summer nights filled with food to winter snow covering rooftops and mountain roads. Although the town feels peaceful, reaching it still requires crossing steep, winding roads, like a natural barrier keeping Aden away from the noisy world below. Bishari, Lebanon. Hanging on limestone slopes between clouds and deep ravines, Bishari appears like a town floating in the cold mountain sky of Lebanon. This is the birthplace of Khalil Gibran, author of The Prophet, and his legacy is preserved in a museum set inside a rock cave once linked to the life of hermits. The same steep landscape once sheltered Maronite Christian monks who sought refuge in mountain caves to protect their faith during troubled times. On the mountain slopes near the town stands an ancient cedar forest, where trees more than 2,000 years old rise with rough trunks like prehistoric creatures still resisting time and the harsh climate. Winding roads beside deep ravines make the journey to Bishari feel more like a pilgrimage for inner silence than a vacation. Vila do Corvo, Portugal. In a storm-filled part of the Atlantic Ocean, Vila do Corvo stands on a volcanic island of only about 7 square miles, where fewer than 500 people survive on an ancient lava strip reaching into the sea. Because the island has almost no natural protection, black basalt houses were built tightly together along narrow lanes to reduce the force of violent ocean storms. Its extreme isolation once caused this place to be called the Ghost Island, because winter storms and heavy fog could completely cut it off from the outside world for many months. On such a tiny island, flat land is so rare that the only runway, about 2,625 feet long, takes up most of the living space. And when no planes arrive, villagers simply walk across it like a normal road. Extreme weather turns traveling here into a gamble, because you may buy a ticket for 2 days but end up trapped for 2 to 3 weeks when storms and fog stop all ships and planes from reaching the island. El Chaltén, Argentina. Sharp granite towers rise through the clouds like giant teeth, turning the wild land of Patagonia into a dark, frozen, and haunting fortress. Beneath peaks rising more than 11,155 feet stands El Chaltén, a young settlement founded in 1985 on a remote frontier and now known as Argentina's national trekking capital. From steep-roofed houses built to withstand heavy snow and fierce winds, trails lead visitors deep into ancient moss-covered forests, turquoise glacial lakes, and cold slopes of broken rock. Yet this beauty always comes with danger, because in a single day, the weather can change from brilliant sunshine to violent snowstorms and wind gusts reaching 93 miles per hour. Once you step into this wilderness, you can walk all day without meeting another person, surrounded only by a frightening silence that follows every step. Hasron, Lebanon. Known as the Rose of the Lebanese Mountains, Hasron stands out on the edge of steep cliffs, with bright red tiled roofs rising between grey rock and dark green forests. Resting high between clouds and deep drops, this ancient town still preserves centuries-old stone houses and narrow roads winding along the mountainside. These houses are not only beautiful, but also built to survive a harsh climate, with steep roofs helping snow up to about 7 feet deep slide away and stone walls about 31 inches thick, resisting cold winter winds. From the edge of the town, visitors can look into a ravine more than 2,625 feet deep, where sheer cliffs and low clouds make Hasron feel like a natural fortress hanging above empty space. Protected by the mountains from the noisy world outside, the village still preserves its green gardens, simple hospitality, and peaceful life shaped across many centuries. Arkaroola, Australia. Looking like a strange planet that has fallen onto Earth, Arkaroola exposes ancient rock formations created more than 1.6 billion years ago. Under heat that often rises above 113 degrees Fahrenheit, twisted red-orange mountain ridges form a powerful contrast with bright blue water pools hidden deep inside the gorges. Most mysterious of all is its underground hot spring system, where heat comes from the natural decay of radioactive minerals rather than volcanic activity. Beyond its geological value, Arkaroola is also an important private sanctuary for the rare yellow-footed rock wallaby, an animal that survives on dangerous rocky cliffs. Because this land is impossible to replace, a law passed in 2012 banned mining here, protecting the ancient wilderness from the attraction of uranium and other minerals.